awareness is the number one. Again, you're going in automatic pilot on your inner story. How do you stop it? With awareness.
Yeah.
You had limiting beliefs. How do you stop them? The first step, awareness.
Awareness.
Everything begins with awareness. Awareness is the first step on changing anything. Then you have to follow awareness with, a plan, behavior, breaking habits. There is a lot of things you have to do. But without awareness as the first step, nothing else is possible.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to tell your friends and make sure you hit subscribe. We've got another great show for you today, a little bit different. We've got Rabbi and Dr. Alfredo Borodowski with us today. And we're going to get into reinvention. This guy's been a lawyer, a professor, a rabbi, a social worker, an executive coach, a speaker, and a multi-time author. So we're going to talk about reinvention. We're going to talk about positive psychology. He's an expert in positive psychology, which is controlling the story in your mind. And we're going to talk about finding purpose through understanding your strengths. You understand your strengths, then you understand your purpose. You will find optimism, hope, and appreciation. Welcome to the show and welcome to the Edge of Excellence. Well, welcome to the show. We've got a great one today. We've got Dr. Alfredo Borodowski, also formerly a rabbi, here to share his path and share his story. Thank you so much, Alfredo, for being on the show with us today.
Hey, great. Thank you for having me, Matthew, and everybody listening.
Yeah, welcome to the Edge of Excellence. We're going to get deep into a little bit of becoming a rabbi, but a lot of rising as a leading consultant for Fortune 500 firms, law firms, nonprofits, writing a couple books, one under the John Maxwell Leadership Banner, and transforming knowledge into a book as you consult. So it'll be an exciting show. But before we get into that, we got to ask Alfredo, what is your definition of excellence?
Excellence is actually relative. Everybody can be excellent. It's the best you can be according to who you are. There are no objective parameters. Everybody has excellence within themselves if they maximize what they have. Then it's reachable by everybody. You set your excellence. It is your definition, and you go for it.
All right. I knew you'd be a good guest. That's a wonderful answer. The best you can be according to who you are. You do have to max out what you have, but you set the definition and you decide. I'm going to think about that every time I'm a little bit judgmental on what I think people should be doing. I'm going to think about that and that quote you gave us. Well, we need to go back to the beginning, figure out kind of the path to help you clarify people's purpose and toughest moments and becoming an impactful psychiatrist and expert on positive psychology, partnering with some of the most respected groups like John Maxwell. We're going to get into that. But before that, you were a young kid. Did you grow up in Westchester? No, you grew up in Argentina, obviously. Argentina.
In Buenos Aires.
And then Westchester. So tell us, what was life like in Buenos Aires? Who was your team, if you had one back then? Who is your team now? And what was going on? And were you on your path to being a doctor back then? Were you on your path to being in psychology, or what was going on in your life?
Sometimes I grab my phone and I remember that one of my happiest days in my childhood when I was 13.
Yeah.
And we got a landline.
Yeah. Okay. You had nothing before that.
Nothing before that. Okay.
Yeah.
I had to go to the, to the bakery or to the phone on the streets or to the train station. Then 13, I remember one phone. Okay. My father had to talk with a lot of people to get one. Look how far.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell my age, but it wasn't 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Then that
and it was in a city. It wasn't rural. It was in Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires, okay?
Yeah.
Color TV, I remember in 1978.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we went through those transitions that were like tremendous changes, and today, a different world.
Yeah.
Then I grew up in a house, a Jewish house. Very proud of being Jewish, but very universalistic.
Yeah.
We connected to the world, very progressive. My father was a journalist.
Okay.
My mother was an obstetric nurse. My home was basically a press conference, a press, was all the time news, and my father working with news and me proofreading some of his writings.
Okay.
And then, I went to law school in Argentina to become a lawyer. And this was during the military dictatorship, what was called the junta, and the war against, the left, when thousands of people disappeared in Argentina and went into clandestine prisons where they were torture with the worst torture you can imagine. Okay, then I went through that time. That was very traumatic for me and for everybody. You couldn't go out on the streets. It was martial law for like 5 years of my life. And we were
And
all
what were the
scared.
ages? What were the age? How old were you during the?
I was at that point, like, it was in high school. It was in high school, and people began disappearing first from universities, and then they began disappearing from high schools.
Oh.
Then that's something that marked me profoundly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this has to do now a lot with my search for justice.
Okay.
If I see an injustice, I really, really, really get shaken and do something. And when I finished law school and it was around 22, I got a chance to come here to the States to study. And this was before globalization. When I told my friends I'm going to Cincinnati to study, they look at me and say, "What is that?
Yeah.
Hey, what is Cincinnati? How are you getting there?" I had no English whatsoever at that point.
Okay.
I told my parents I'm going to the United States to study. In 2 months, they fell off their chair. It was during a dinner. You had to see their faces. And we went and opened a map of the United States and tried to locate Cincinnati, and we couldn't. And even more, I couldn't buy a ticket from Buenos Aires to Cincinnati. No, they didn't exist. I had to fly to Miami, and then at the airport buy a ticket from Miami to Cincinnati.
Wow.
Then was an adventure.
Yeah. What university? Was it the University of Cincinnati?
I went to the Hebrew Union College, which is a very good Jewish university, and I studied also English as a second language at the University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
I remember the Bearcats became a team.
Yeah.
And I had a great time. The Queen City. I loved it there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know what? The first night I arrived there, I was hungry. And I asked somebody, I had no English, where can I get a sandwich? And they said to me, at the Subway.
Yeah.
And I went, it's 4 blocks down there. And I went 4 blocks and I began looking for a real Subway.
Yeah.
All over. Where? Because, in Argentina, when you go down the subway station, there are a lot of stores.
Yeah.
In some stations here too. Until I was going back to my room, and I saw the Subway, and never forget.
Okay. So an interesting place to go. And I love Cincinnati. I love Cleveland as well. And you're a lawyer, but you're studying what? Were you studying to practice law in the US, or were you moving into more of the religious studies at that time?
I studied law in Argentina, but I had a dream, which is philosophy. I love philosophy, and I came here to study a PhD in philosophy.
Okay.
And I got it.
Okay.
And I taught philosophy for many years at the university. And then I went back to school to become a social worker, specializing on clinical work. And from there, I moved into executive coaching, positive psychology. I moved into the the kind of positive aspects of the psyche.
Okay. So on the there's a couple interesting things. You've reinvented yourself quite a few times. And in there, you were also a rabbi, practicing rabbi for 30 years, but lawyer, philosophy professor, social worker, executive coach, positive psychology, author. People, someone listening right now wants to figure out what they want. They all want to figure out what they're going to do forever. You probably thought that same way when you were in your 20s. What would you say to prepare people for the good possibility they're going to need to change at least once or twice? And why do you think you've been so successful at kind of reaching some pretty high levels in careers? You know, you're a professor, teacher, but also a professor. What's your advice?
Something that I didn't do well, and I learned the hard way, get yourself a good mentor. Okay? Could be professional, could be a friend, but many of the decisions that we make, they are within our mind, and our mind left to itself could be very tricky.
What do you mean many of the decisions we make are in our mind?
People, we are storytellers, and everybody listening writes a story. Every human being. We don't write them on paper. We are writers of the story of our life in our brains. But what happened that we have been writing the story for so long that we do not have anymore the capacity to understand which kind of genre we're writing. And we may be writing a tragedy for ourselves and we don't have any more sensitivity to it, or adventure, or risk, whatever your story is that has to do with your childhood and limiting beliefs, with a lot of things. But we write our internal story in automatic pilot. And then we first write and then live. In some way, the process inside is before reality. Reality inside is sometimes more real than reality outside.
And so the mentorship is helping you create the reality and create what you want to become.
The good mentor is the one who asks good questions. Questions that push you to ask yourself what story you're writing in your mind, that create reflection within you. Good questions. And that's what a good coach is. Somebody who knows how to ask questions. Okay. And, not somebody who only gives advice. Advice is good too. But somebody who asks you, who stops the process by which you go on automatic pilot and make you reflect. That's one of the problems I see when people come to me. They have not asked questions of themselves.
And so through your reinventions, that's how you figure out which direction you want to go. You had solid mentors asking you questions, you're asking questions of yourself, and the path is starting to open up for you.
No, that was not my case, unfortunately. I reinvented myself many times because I crashed too many times.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
you and
I
the rest of
crashed
us.
big. Okay, I had so many crashes that either I reinvented myself or I basically went completely to the abyss.
Okay.
Then try to avoid that. In 2013 I was manic. I suffered from mania. I went to my psychiatrist and lied to him. I said I had depression because people with mania love the mania. I was super creative, didn't sleep, lost weight, had 10 projects simultaneously, and I lied to him. And a friend of mine, a policeman, gave me a friend and family badge, like a replica of his badge. And between my mania and diagnosed, the wrong medication and the badge, I began patrolling the streets of New York.
Okay.
Until I was arrested.
Okay.
And accused of impersonating a police officer.
Oh.
And a felony. And I went to deep depression. I was hospitalized and I was diagnosed bipolar.
Okay.
I lost my job. I lost my friends. I was on TV, my face on TV. newspapers,
Wow.
and I went into deep depression for many months because I have four court cases. My
Okay.
life was over.
Yeah.
And until one day, Matthew, I felt a force pushing me up to my study. And I went to my study and I found something on the desk that saved my life.
Okay.
I saw a yellow folder. I opened it and I saw the results of a test on positive psychology I had taken a few years earlier. And I read my top 5 strengths: creativity, curiosity, love of learning, perseverance, and courage. And at that moment, a switch was turned within me. And I said, Alfredo, you forgot who you are. And that when in the middle of depression with the court cases, I enrolled back to become a social worker.
Okay.
And I went through school with all the court cases, all based on my top strengths of positive psychology. And that's how I got into positive psychology.
Okay, interesting. So you reached maybe a rock bottom, and some people might be able to relate to this because they've reached that a different way. There's mental rock bottom. A lot of people deal with depression, get to a rock bottom, and again, I always say this: if you're suffering from depression and you're at rock bottom and you need some help, please call the suicide hotline. Let me make sure everybody's got the suicide hotline. If you are in crisis, text 988 or call 988 from your cell phone, and it'll connect you with trained counselors. Again, if you're suffering right now, reach out, get some help. 988 is the suicide hotline from your phone. Yeah, please call that number. If you work at College Works, you know that we staff a psychiatrist on staff, so please reach out. I mean, it is serious. However you get there, you know, my wife had alcoholism, my wife's had depression, bipolarism, mania, and what you did was you stopped for a second and then you said you identified your 5 biggest strengths, which in this case you did through the test prior, but maybe someone that doesn't have the test could stop right now and think of their 5 biggest strengths. And then
No, I tell you what to do.
What?
You know, take your phone and pay and text the word positive to 33777. Very simple, positive to 33777, and I will send you the 24 strengths of positive psychology and a couple of questions by which you will know your top 5 strengths.
Okay, so that's awesome. I'm gonna say that again. Text the word positive, positive, to 33777, and you will figure out what your strengths are. And then when you had those, did you cross-reference it to different career paths? And that's what helped you figure out which way you were going?
Well, look, it was very simple. You know, in my case, creativity, curiosity, and love of learning. No wonder I went back to study.
Yeah.
Okay, which is a direct connection to those, to creativity, love of learning, and curiosity. And it's going to happen to you. There are 24 strengths of positive psychology, and you're going to see your top 5, and immediately the question that will come up in your mind is, what do I do with them?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a natural progression. And every time I give to somebody, you know, we work on strength, I hear the same. Whoa, that's me. I forgot. I had forgotten who am I. I feel validated. I feel energized. Then what is a tragedy, Matthew, is that we know from studies that 2/3 of people are unaware of the top strengths. There is an epidemic of strength blindness. Then people have them already. They don't even need to develop them so much, but they cannot use them intentionally to their full potential because they are unaware of their gifts.
Yeah. And so the awareness makes things obvious to you then. Afterwards.
Awareness is the number one. Again, you're going in automatic pilot on your inner story. How do you stop it? With awareness.
Yeah.
You had limiting beliefs. How do you stop them? You know, the first step Awareness.
Awareness.
Everything begins with awareness. Awareness is the first step on changing anything. Then you have to follow awareness with, a plan, behavior, breaking habits. There is a lot of things you have to do. But without awareness as the first step, nothing else is possible.
Okay, so that gives us an idea of what positive psychology is. Besides identifying strength, what more is positive psychology, and how do all your clients use it to find purpose in the toughest moment?
The positive psychology was born in 1998 as a science, and it is a science of what works. For 100 years, psychology studied suffering in the mind, psychosis, neurosis, depression. In 1998, psychologists began asking the question, but what's happening with all the good going on in the brain, in the psyche? And they began developing positive psychology. Then we are experts on optimism, hope, happiness, resilience, motivation. That's what our practice centered around. And that's what companies call me for, to maximize the potential. I working now a lot with purpose. There is a new instrument out there called the purpose factor. It's the first instrument to map the purpose of a person. I was fortunate to be among the 100 first certified people in the world on the purpose factor. And that's what I work a lot with companies and individuals. What is purpose? People ask me that all the time. There are so many definitions. I tell you the one I use is giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. That's what purpose is. Giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. And if I would be giving a commencement at the university, a commencement address, I would talk about purpose. And I would say that everybody looking to be fulfilled in life and is looking for a path for what to do next. To have a life that you look back and say, I did my thing and I did it well and I'm satisfied. The question is giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. Whatever you do, okay? Whatever you do, it has to respond to that. Because once you give the best of yourself, and this you will know it by knowing your top strengths, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And you ask your question, what good I can do with this? You are going to get all you want. You're going to succeed. It's not going to be so relevant success because you're going to be fulfilled. And success will come as a result of the fulfillment. That's what purpose is.
So the group that's listening to this, they're young. And I'll tell you a story. My daughter goes to Northeastern University. I'm a big supporter of the Northeastern Hillel. Shout out to the Northeastern Hillel. And I called her up one day, and her friend won't say her friend's name. Her friend was in her room, and I said, "Hey, Kennedy, do I need to worry about your friend because she's in her room?" And Kennedy said, "No." And I said, "Well, is she a little depressed, or is she sad? Is she got too many opportunities? Is she anxious?" She said, "Dad, everyone's depressed." And I know the difference between clinical depression and non-clinical depression. My daughter has been diagnosed, has taken medication. She has depression, same with my wife. So it's real. And I said, "Wow, Kennedy." And she said, "Dad, everyone's depressed." And it's almost as true. And I mentioned it a couple times. We have a psychologist, the one that cannot prescribe drugs, or maybe she can, on staff that we pay for our employees to go utilize at College Works because they're in their 20s and life's tough. So positive psychology is about optimism, hope, appreciation. How do you implement that if the world seems like it's caving in and we've got all the different wars around the world and all the rehashing of the same tragedies that have been rehashed before and Holocaust deniers and all this stuff going on. What would you tell someone listening right now about how to bring optimism, hope, and appreciation into their life?
Then, just how bad it is. We have statistics, serious one, that 45% of students in college are going through some kind of debilitating depression.
Wow.
Okay, and that's debilitating. There are other less. Okay, then it's serious, tremendously serious. Look, at that time in life,
Mhm.
you are looking in that environment of college, you're looking for validation from friends, you're looking for validations from parents, validation from teachers, and at the same time, you're going through the rebellion against them, when you are caught in some kind of paradox. And universities, many of them are designed to as a trial for you to succeed.
Yeah.
They will put you through fire
Yeah.
to toughen you up. Okay.
Or to weed you out. Or to weed you out sometimes.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
OChem, organic chemistry.
Then look, the most you work in your inner strength and you know your strengths and you are aware of yourself, more resistant you become to the outside influences. Then that's what I would like people to do anything that would give them a good awareness, internal awareness is number one. I
So
love social media. I'm not against social media, and I use it, but it has to be used wisely. You can't really use that to find your identity.
mm, mm, mm.
Your
And
identity, yes,
I, I just want to go back to the texting positive, the word positive to 33777. And if you do that, first step is figure out what your strengths are. With that, you can figure out your purpose and your direction. And from that, then you get the optimism, the hope, and the appreciation.
that's in business. I have a formula. It's for business, but I do positivity means strength
Yeah.
plus purpose equal peak performance. But in case of a college students, strength plus purpose means a life of inner strength.
Yeah. And the purpose being the best of yourself for the benefit of others.
Yes, question that you have to ask yourself constantly.
Yeah. Maxing out, back to your definition of excellence, maxing out what you have equals peak performance, which again equals optimism, positivity, hope.
Exactly,
So if you're
and
so th-
resilience.
so if I'm studying positive psychology, I'm aiming to figure out what I can to deliver to the world. I do the best I can delivering it. I'm vetting to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm performing great, and then everything kind of opens up.
I like the word everything aligns.
Aligns.
Then basically your strength, your purpose, and your fulfillment,
Okay.
they all come together in a natural progression.
Okay. So let's go back to your path. And so we the between the lawyer and the philosophy professor, and somewhere around the time you get all this training, you become a social worker, and then you transition from a social worker to executive coaching, and you're writing books. So when did you decide to switch to the executive coaching? People choose different niches, right? So you decided you wanted to move to that executive coaching niche. What made you do that? And then why did you start writing?
Well, remember, let's go back, to the basics. My top strengths are creativity, love of learning, and curiosity.
Mhm.
A person who is like that is always searching. And I mean, for me, reinvention is not the result of being dissatisfied. It's who I am. It's the expression of my strengths.
Okay.
And clearly, at my age, and I came to a point where I am so happy with what I do that I don't think I'm going to be reinventing myself that more. I'm going
Okay.
to go deeper in what I do. But it was a journey. I love the challenge of learning and reinventing myself. Some of it had to do, as I share, with crashing against, going deep down. Uh, but I had always been this way. What's new? What's moving the world? What are the great ideas that people are thinking? I love ideas. And how can I help people find their ideas and make breakthrough in their in their own journeys? That has always been for me, even as a rabbi. The way I faced being a rabbi was kind of different rabbinate. I always was a little bit controversial on my pulpit because I always was very challenging. For me, religion is a force for good in the world. It's about moving things forward. And many people wanted religion to be about keeping things the way they are and about tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as tradition is at the center of religion, I was a rabbi that believed that religion is about change. All
Okay.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's one of the reasons I left the pulpit, because I felt that the pulpit for me was a little bit constraining.
Okay.
It didn't allow me to go and push the boundaries the way I wanted. And I would say that was the number one reason that I left the active pulpit. That I couldn't be loyal to the need of people that they wanted something solid, regular, okay, and tradition. And I was of a mind of pushing things forward.
What drove you from the pulpit, but probably drew you into working with uh, high performing nonprofits, Fortune 500s, people that are going to invest and want to follow that
Because
path.
The business world is one of the places where people are more willing to try new things.
Yeah, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to be the best they can, they want to deliver the
Exactly.
best. And I was talking to someone about this today. Oh, it was my son, and no, it wasn't. I was doing a podcast with somebody, and we are talking about the difference between having the person now owns a business and didn't before. And I said, "What's the difference?" He's like, "Nothing changes." No, because most people want to act like the owners. They want to do the best. They want it to grow. They want to hit home runs. And if you're
In
dealing with,
business, you don't have the luxury of falling behind.
yeah,
And with all the challenges that businesses have, they're very receptive to me. And because I also a different kind of consultant, because I bring a lot of philosophy
yeah.
and ancient wisdom, and I am as much as of process as of content. Then I infuse my consulting with much content.
Yeah, your path has been, I mean, if you look at it and filtering based on those strengths, those 5 strengths, your path has been a honing in to where you are. I mean, a
Yes.
lawyer, a lot of what you do is probably asking questions like a lawyer would, diving in like a lawyer would. Philosophy we use in everything. And you've got the social working practice, the rabbi is kind of all of the above, right? And then you get into executive coaching. It's just you followed a jagged path to get to where you're meant to be.
No regrets.
No regrets. Well, I'm gonna ask you about that because that's one of my. First of all, are you surprised where you are now compared to that kid with no telephone and no color TV growing up in Argentina? Are you surprised that you've had these 5 different careers and you're writing books and speaking around the world?
Look, if you live today and you are not surprised every minute of your life, then you don't get it. I mean, the fact that I had the world in a little thing like
Yeah,
this that
yeah,
I can just push a button and have a conversation seeing my brother in Argentina for free.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
WhatsApp my brother in Argentina at any moment and have a
yeah.
face-to-face conversation for free. I remember when I was studying graduate school and I used to collect my
Mhm.
parents to Buenos Aires and have a 3-minute conversation rehearsed. That's all we could
Yeah.
afford.
Yeah,
And it was
my
like
mom's
twice a
from
month.
My mom's from England. We couldn't afford that. So we would make these little cassette tapes and then we'd record them and mail them to England. And then they'd send them back. And then we figured out like 30 years later, we used the same tape. We recorded over everything. Wouldn't it be great to still have those tapes?
I don't want to take away from you the uniqueness, but exactly the same for me. My father would send tapes.
And we
Then,
couldn't afford to buy another tape. So we recorded over our father's voices with our voice.
okay,
So
and
wish I had
today
done
I
that.
can WhatsApp my brother in
Yeah,
Argentina for free and talk.
yeah, yeah,
I try at least once a day to have a moment
yeah,
of what I have today.
yeah. That's cool. That's a good way to look at it. So to that question I asked, what did I ask? What do you say to people my daughter's age about optimism and hope and appreciation? You said a lot, but look for a moment every day. Look for that
Absolutely.
positive aha moment every day.
The beginning of happiness is wonder. There is
Yeah.
no happiness without wonder.
Yeah.
You need to wonder about something every day. You can, and for people who are younger than us, maybe a little bit more difficult because they didn't go from phone at
Yeah.
13 to, they were born with already a technology
Yeah.
very advanced. But, look, be one a day amazed that you are breathing,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you can
Amazed.
take something called air that you cannot see, that
Yeah.
is in abundance free to you, and that enters your body, and something happened with your lungs and some process that you then excel or you don't need, and you do it hundreds of thousands of times a day without thinking about.
For probably 100 years. They're going to all live till they're 130 with science going the way it's going. So
Then
every day aha moment and every day be amazed.
then if you want to wonder about something, just
Yeah.
stop 1 second a day and say to yourself, what the heck? I am breathing. That's all.
Good. Well, I've got one more question. You said regrets. When you were younger in your 20s, something you had to make a decision. Maybe it was moving to the US and you thought this, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do this. And you did it. It was the greatest decision ever. What was that decision that you were sacrificing something and you didn't want to sacrifice it and you did the other thing, but it ended up being the best decision you ever made?
When I came to the States, everybody I knew told me that I was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, people may not understand before globalization.
Yeah.
Okay, there was no going to study to another country.
No.
That didn't exist. I didn't know anybody done it.
Yeah.
Okay, and when I told my friends, my university friends, I am going to the United States in 2 months, and I have no English whatsoever,
Yeah.
they basically felt that I was a lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I came with no money, no language,
Mhm.
okay, to a place that I couldn't point its location on a
Yeah.
map and without a ticket to get there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, I got to go back creativity, love of learning, and curiosity.
Yeah.
Those are my top strengths. I
Yeah.
acted according who I am.
Before you knew who you were,
Exactly. But
you can
I
kind
didn't
of tell.
I didn't maximize it because they
Yeah.
were not conscious. But
Yeah.
I was strong enough on that to do it. And look, I can tell you, the first night I called my family back from a payphone and I told them I ain't going back tomorrow. I have a cultural shock
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
of major proportions. But it lasted like 48 hours. A friend of mine took me to a store and bought me a TV. It was a
Okay.
small black and white TV, small, and
Yeah.
said, before the university begins, there is a week that you have free. I want you 24 hours of watching TV.
To
And
learn
and
English.
just to, learn English, let your ears accustom themselves to
Yeah.
the language. And that's what I do. I can basically sing all the commercials
Yeah.
from 30 years ago.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, Professor Dr. Alfredo, thank
And Rabbi, you're going to be Rabbi too.
Rabbi, thank you so much for making time for us today. What a bunch of great messages and great systems for figuring out your strengths, finding your purpose, and ending up with optimism, happiness, and hope. Thank you so much for coming on the Edge of Excellence and sharing your story.
A pleasure. Look, have your strengths. They're free and
Yeah.
they're yours.
And again, what was the number again? I got it in my notes here. Three text positive to 33777. Figure out what your strengths are and get a little window into your future. Thank you so much for coming on the Edge of Excellence.
Thank you.